Skylark. To what degree does Shelley accomplish any of the principles that he outlines in Defense of Poetry? Let's begin with Ozymandias. What is it that Shelley says in Defense of Poetry that makes Ozymandias work in regards to one of those principles? And by the way, you may be looking now at 857. Is there one thing that he says in Defense of Poetry that works with a poem about a guy who came back from Egypt, saw this statue lying in the ground now, the sand starting to come over it, and the tremendous pride or hubris of Ozymandias is now a joke because there's nothing left of that decaying and colossal wreck? Is there anything that Shelley says about poetry, especially in the second paragraph of that page 857, that makes you at all think about Ozymandias as a poem in which he's trying to do something? Go ahead, Mr. Judice.
It's like the beginning of the first one. It's like poetry turns all things to loveliness. It
Exalts, good.
Exalts the beauty of that which is most beautiful, and it adds beauty to that which is most deformed.
It is true, isn't it? Because he's making an observation about a deformity, right? That which is being destroyed. Ozymandias' statue, right? Some of us would maybe say about that sad. It's almost like Shelley says, sand wins every time. All you got to do is give it a few thousand years, sand wins every time, right? Or we might say by extension, not just sand, but what? Nature wins, right? Nature wins. All right, how about Ode to the West Wind? This one is a little bit easier. How about Ode to the West Wind?
Use the same one.
You can, in the same way, right? You could point out that Ode to the West Wind is a poem in which there is some exaltation or raising of the beauty of the wind, no doubt.
The line in Defense of Poetry, it strips the veil of familiarity.
Ah, did you hear that one? It strips the veil. That's like, we look through this screen, right? We look through this screen at life. A poet takes away that screen. And all of a sudden we look and think about the wind differently. Or we look and think about the poems that he's writing differently. He wrote them hoping you would read them someday and you would be awakened. You would think differently about the world. That was his hope at the end of Ode to the West Wind. Remember, that's his hope. If winter comes, can spring what? Be far behind, right? Don't worry, no matter how bad the winter is, literally or metaphorically, we know spring's coming. There's always a way to get out of a tough situation. Don't give up. Don't quit, right? Don't quit. Even if it's hard, don't quit, right? What about this now Skylark poem we just looked at? Are there some lines from Defense of Poetry that work kind of well to talk about that Shelley actually accomplishes one of those principles from Defense of Poetry?
Again, the first line will still work.
Clearly it works. You can kind of see why your textbook picked that line out, huh? All three of these poems, clearly he's exalting the beauty, right, of the song of the bird. As Mr. Nelson points out, he's also doing this thing about taking the most normal stuff, bird singing. Next time you hear a bird song, here's the prediction Shelley will make. Next time you hear a bird song, for a split second you're going to think, what was that poem we read about? Why that stupid bird singing? Oh yeah. And see, in the moment we do that, Shelley wins as a poet. He says, gotcha. You don't read my poem, you don't think about the songbird that way. Now you do, I win. Of course, Shelley says, when I win, you win, the reader. Mr. Nelson.
There's also the line in here, its secret alchemy turns to potable gold the poisonous waters which flow from death through life.
Yeah, very much right.
There's many of us that see the song of the bird as annoying when it wakes us up early.
Fine point. Like, stupid bird, why don't those stupid birds shut up in the morning? Let me sleep. Excellent, excellent. So, here for the last observation, for your notes on this paper. The big thing is two things. One, you need quotes from Defense of Poetry. Two, for each POV, you need a quote from a poem by Shelley. I recommend that you give one paragraph for each of the three poems. One paragraph will treat Ozymandias. One paragraph will treat Ode to the West Wind. One paragraph will treat Skylark. Of course, the advantage is, when you get ready to take the exam next Monday, you'll know these poems well enough that hopefully you can answer the questions that are being asked about the texts, right? Thank you.